Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs?
What's going on?
Hope you had a phantasmal, wonderful 4th of July weekend.
Phantasmal is that a new word you got?
Phantasmal, yeah. I guess it
too
is.
Lit.
Hopefully you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. It is the 5th of July when we are recording this. It is launching on the 6th of July. So technically speaking, we are at 4th of July observed.
Yeah, everybody's recovering now.
Yeah. Shot off a bunch of fireworks. May or may not be legal in Massachusetts.
You admitting to a crime?
I'm not. Who knows where I was when I shot off those fireworks?
Did you even shoot? Well, I was going to say, did you even? But you already admitted to that, so now you just have to be like, I was not in that state.
Yeah, so you were in the state that's legal for fireworks instead of the state that's not. But either way, welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always.
What's up?
And today we have some interesting stuff to discuss. We're gonna complete our rankings series of episodes. I don't know if we're gonna do another one. What the freaking day is it? July 5th, July 6th, which I just said like 10 seconds ago. Some of my Alzheimer's is already kicking in. I can't remember what the crap I'm doing. So, yeah, July 6th. And we are like 2 months away from the NFL season being the week of the NFL season beginning, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And this also on our fantasy. Well, I was going to say fantasy football Instagram, but if you go to our Instagram, you'll see a little picture. It says this is the last month without football because we got spring. Wow, man, preseason in August.
Yeah,
not training camp. Well, yes, training camp in July, but. And not, what is the other one I was about to say? Spring training?
Yeah.
I've been watching an inordinate amount of baseball, and it needs to stop.
It's because there's nothing else to do.
It really is nothing else to do. I've watched baseball 3 days in a row. And I'm like following the standings. I got yelled at by my brother yesterday because he's like, there's 80 games left in the season. I'm like, relax, bro. I need something to do. So,
I was going to say, that is kind of sad, though.
It is.
Watch 3 straight baseball games.
In the meantime, I am doing projections and rankings and breakouts, busts, and everything under the sun. So the point of this whole discussion is I don't know if we're going to do another rankings section of this podcast until next year. So this might be the last rankings episode because there's a lot of content flying through the door over the next couple months. But I don't know if any of it includes rankings. I haven't really looked. But I did make a plan. So just know that we have a lot of content coming.
Right.
But anyway,
today, we're working on it.
Top 12 quarterbacks in fantasy football. Quarterback rankings. Should be interesting. Before we jump into that, check our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter. Any social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just type in the Fantasy Champions. You'll find us somewhere. If you listen to on any podcasting platforms, be sure to leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and then like and comment down below. We haven't been getting a lot of comments on the YouTube lately, people. I want you to roast
slacking,
me,
bro.
Say it again.
Has YouTube been slacking?
Yeah, dude. People are slacking right now. I don't know what just happened to my camera.
So right now we can all see a close up of your face.
But I'm 90% sure that my camera just pooped the bed.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we can't see a close up of your face.
No, I can't see a close up of my face.
And the raging lack of chest hair.
I guess that I guess so. Yeah, I'm gonna have no video for me this particular podcast, I guess.
Okay, great.
So I will just sit here and pretend like nothing happened. Either way. What was I just talking about? Like and comment down below. YouTube.
Yeah,
you've been slacking. So just comment. The draft guide pre-orders are live. $9.99 is where they're at right now, where the price is right now. So it's cheap. Probably the cheapest draft guide you're going to get, unless people are giving it away for free. And you know how free things are. They don't have the same oomph. Like if I get
it's like you go to Walmart and someone's giving you something free in the parking lot, probably not the best idea to get it.
Unless you're given a sample. Free samples are great. This episode is a free sample of our rankings, okay?
Right.
So then you go and you buy the meal, you buy the meat, the product, okay? Which is $9.99.
It's like you get them all when they offer like the Chinese food.
That's what I'm saying.
Samples. Yeah.
So they're
always good.
They're always fantastic. So we're gonna give you a fantastic piece of content today, and in turn, you should go buy the full piece of content when you taste it, and you're like, wow, this is pretty good, or you say this blows, and you go spend $40 on a draft guide. I don't advise that, even though I bought like 60 of them. Dynasty and redraft rankings are in it. Breakouts, busts, sleepers, player projections, much more are in this draft guide. So be sure to buy now or be lame and lose your fantasy league. Launches July 16th.
Yeah, make sure you buy it.
So I feel like that's been a flying catastrophe. Literally, my camera, I don't know what happened, but my camera literally has told me it just stopped recording. It shut itself off, turned back on, and then it said that my SD card has fried out.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I don't even know. I might get like 40 seconds of my face. I don't know yet.
So everyone can just see your beautiful face and then gone.
I mean, hopefully I'll be available. My face will be on the YouTube on Wednesday. Or what is it, Thursday? I don't know. But anyway, let's jump into our rankings. As usual, we'll do it the same way. We're going to go through the top 12 consensus, tell you where our guys are. If there's any discrepancies, we'll tell you our complete top 12 at some point in the episode. But we're gonna talk about the consensus 12 and tell you whether or not those guys are actually in our consensus 12.
Right.
So let's jump right in. Obviously, number one, Patrick Mahomes. Not much. Yeah, I don't want to spend 40 minutes talking about quarterbacks. So let's just Rick, I'll give your thoughts quickly on Mahomes, and then I'll say I agree, and we'll move on.
Yeah, Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, man. He's been consistently probably the best quarterback in the league the last two seasons. 2 years ago, he was historically good, and last year he was battling some injuries, and he was still very good. I think he finish as the QB2 last year? And he missed a game as well. He's also just the most consistent. It's been 3 years, actually. So 3 years of just him being consistently, like, you're going to get a top, at worst, like the QB3.
Last year, he was QB4.
Really? He was QB4?
16 games, but he missed one. So he probably would have been like one or two.
Where was he in average?
25 points per game, which is number one in the league.
Yeah. Okay. So number one in the league in points per game. Yeah, he's going to be the best quarterback when he's healthy. It's just a matter of him playing every game. But, I mean, he's Patrick Mahomes, man. There's not much to talk about. Yeah, he's – I think the reason why he's number one for me particularly is because I even if he doesn't finish one this year, he is the most consistent top three quarterback that you are going to get. I mean, so where is he going to finish at worst? Like worst case scenario, he plays every game and finishes QB3. Yeah, right. like if he plays all 16, I think worst case scenario he finishes 3. So, or I would say, what is it, 17 now? I have no idea. We're gonna find out this season what the cluster crap of this situation. It is 17 games. Yeah, it's 17 games, but we only are gonna play 16 in fantasy football. So. But that's what we usually play 15 because we skip the week 17 game, right? Yeah, so now it's 16 games. We skip the week 17 game. It's confusing me already. Or the week 18 game. All right, see, this is what I'm saying. I don't even know. I should probably be prepared with the schedule formatting, but my brain just can't handle it anymore. So either way, in a full season for Patrick Mahomes, he's going to end up a top 3 quarterback. So get him on your team. And last year, 25 points per game, which led the league. Now, I did want to say he had 25.36. Josh Allen had 25.32. So he was splitting hairs at that point. But yeah, he was number 1 or 2. I think it's just, like I said, consistency and sticking in that spot. When Mahomes is playing, he's the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's the most efficient fantasy quarterback, I think, in fantasy football on a year-to-year basis. So, you know, he's done it for 3 years. The consistency makes him the QB1. Not necessarily me thinking like, oh my God, Mahomes is going to be the QB1, so that's why I got to rank him there. It's that if he's playing, you know he's going to provide you 23 to 25 points per game. Simple as that. In a 4-point touchdown league. Exactly. Now, I did want to reference something before we move on to the next guy because that was real quick. The
positional discrepancy of the quarterback position, or the point discrepancy at the quarterback position among the top 10 guys in points per game really isn't that much. QB1 overall had 25 points per game. You know what the QB10 had?
How many?
22 points per game. 22.79.
Really?
So there was like a 2 to 3 point difference between the QB1 and the QB10 in points per game. This just goes to show you that you do not need to draft quarterbacks early.
Yeah, I was going to say it's almost like you don't have to draft Patrick Mahomes in the first round.
Exactly. Now, if like I said, like at the tight end position, like at least you have the excuse with Travis Kelce that he is ridiculous and above and beyond the number one quarterback in fantasy football. I mean, not number one tight end in fantasy football, but
correct.
And he scores a lot of fantasy points. But like at the quarterback position, I can't really justify taking Josh Allen in the 4th round and then having, guys like Ryan Tannehill, in like 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th round.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
So either way, I wanted to bring that up. But the second guy that we were going to talk about, Kyler Murray, I'm sorry, not Kyler Murray. Forgive me. I'm in the wrong sheet.
Oh, it's not Kyler Murray. It's
Josh Allen is the number 2 ECR. So I have Josh Allen 4. You have Josh Allen 3, correct?
Yep.
So, I mean, I'll just say I personally have Josh Allen 4 because I think there is going to be, and this is complete blind in my mind. There's no reasoning behind this. But the only reasoning I can think of this being the case is because of his strength of schedule not being as easy as it was last year. He has one of the worst strength of schedules, according to Fantasy Pros, in all of fantasy football at the quarterback position. So for me, I think that's going to limit Josh Allen just a smidge, which is going to move him from being like the number 1 quarterback overall to like number 4 or 5. And I think there's just going to be big regression. And that's the dark horse word in the room, with a lot of people like or don't like. But I think there's going to be a lot of regression for Josh Allen this year, and I don't think he's going to do as much as he normally does, or as much as he did last year, in terms of efficiency
he's a one-hit
and production. Wonder? I'm not saying he's a one-hit. If you're a one-hit wonder and you go from QB1 to QB4, I don't think that's a one-hit wonder. But like you look at like Lamar Jackson, he threw. What was it, 36 touchdowns in his second year when he broke out, and we all projected the breakout. And then he went out the next year, and what did he do last year? Like 24, 25 touchdowns?
Yep.
So when you look at the quarterback position, it's extremely hard for a quarterback to consistently put up those. I think Josh Allen had 37 total touchdowns. It's hard to consistently put up those numbers. And I love Josh Allen, think he's a fantastic quarterback. But do I think he's going to throw 37 touchdowns next year? No. Do I think he's going to throw 5,000 passing yards? He didn't do that last year, but that's where he would be able to make up for the fantasy point touchdown discrepancy that he drops in. But the other thing that made Josh Allen so efficient at the quarterback position was his rushing touchdowns. And he had 8 last year. I saw a statistic that said over the last 2 or 3 seasons, Josh Allen has more rushing touchdowns than Ezekiel Elliott. He's 25, and Zeke has 24.
That is absurd.
I just, in every season that he had, in 2018 he had, I'm sorry, let me scroll down a pinch. I was looking at the wrong stats. In 2017, he had 8 touchdowns. 2018 he had 8 touchdowns. 2019 he had 9 touchdowns. Last year he had 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, you could arguably make the discussion that is going to continue. Mm-hmm. But if it doesn't, there's going to be a point discrepancy there, or a regression there as well. So there's so many categories that he could just kind of fall apart in, if you will, that it kind of scares me just a little bit, especially when you're talking about a guy getting drafted, I think is off the board as the number 2 quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand the arguments. I agree with it for the most part. Mm-hmm. There are some things like I think Josh Allen, like running the ball, that's just his game. I mean, consistently the last few seasons, every year he's been in every year of his career, he's put up pretty much similar rushing numbers. So. Yeah,
Josh Allen's going off the board as a second quarterback, pick 40, by the way.
Yeah, and I think like with Lamar, last year. We saw that, like, he was coming off the year where he threw 36 touchdowns on 400 pass attempts. Like, to me, I look at that number and I go, that's not happening again. That was a statistic that last year that I looked at that was just hard to repeat. With Allen, it's kind of like, I think he's like, everything in the offense is pretty much the same. There wasn't anything that he was a crazy outliner. I do think 69% completion percentage, that's going to be really hard to duplicate, because last year he had 58%. So going from 58 to 69 was a huge bump. That could go down, and that could cause his touchdowns to go down, maybe some yards to go down as well. Yeah. And I think the strength of schedule thing is also important. I mean, he had a pretty easy schedule last year. This year, it's not going to be easy at all. He does get to play the Jets twice, but other than that, it's pretty hard. So it's not like the guy we're going to talk about next has a much easier schedule. Like these two guys are very close to me, but that's what put him over the edge for me, and why I have Josh Allen at 3 is just pretty much a schedule and regression. But I don't think it's going to
to
be major regression either with Josh Allen. I still think he's a fantastic quarterback.
Well, like I said, I didn't rank him 8 or 9. So if I was like, oh my God, he's going to regress massively.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably where I put him, 7, 8, or 9. But like, I think that he's still a top 5 quarterback. I just don't think he's going to finish number 1 overall. And there's a couple of guys that I would take over him.
That's very understandable.
So let's talk about the next guy that we have on this list, which is Kyler Murray. We both have him too. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so the ECR has him 3. We have him 2. I think Kyler Murray is absolutely ridiculous when it comes to rushing on the ground. Obviously, we just talked about like Josh Allen and his efficiency scoring like rushing touchdowns and different stuff like that. He's not really great in other rushing categories. Like last year, he had 400. He had 102 rushing attempts and 421 rushing yards in 2020. So the more, and that has slowly decreased over the course of his career, which means he's starting to learn how to throw the football, which is what an NFL quarterback should be able to do, not just rush like Lamar. But he's having a slow decrease in the amount of rushing yards that he is getting, which kind of caps that department for him. But he's not a rushing quarterback. He does rush. But he's not a rushing quarterback. So Josh Allen provides a good floor for that. Whereas Kyler is almost like Lamar Jackson, but can pass, if that makes sense. He last year had, I think, over 800 rushing yards. Yeah, 819 rushing yards through 16 games, and he had 11 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, there's an argument that could be made, just like I just made about Josh Allen, that is the rushing touchdown total specifically could be an area that he starts to decrease a little bit, but I think he's always going to have the rushing yards. So, and as long as his passing game is improving, you could see what he loses in rushing touchdowns, he'll probably gain back in passing metrics. But he only had around 300, I think it was 3,900 passing yards last year and 26 touchdowns. So he didn't have any like massive leaps or improvements on his passing over the past 2 seasons, besides maybe his completion percentage jumping from 64 to 67% last year. And they're still throwing it around 550 to 560 times. So it's like, where do we see the improvement for Josh Allen in that department? Maybe adding some of those vertical outside receivers and AJ Green and Rondale Moore in the offense will maybe help him throw the ball downfield a little bit more and be more confident in that department and cause him to increase his yardage and touchdown totals. But as far as like, I just don't see there being a lot of passing regression for him because there wasn't a lot of production in that department to begin with. So as far as rushing, he might regress a little bit, but passing wise, he's going to get better. And that probably would make him the QB2 overall for me.
Yeah, I want to say Kyler Murray was it an ankle injury last year? Do you remember the game against New England, how they were talking about how he's battling through an injury, and he wasn't really the same after that. And I know like in week 17, when it was a win or go home, I believe he left that game mid-game because of an injury that had been bothering him the last few weeks. I want to say it was an ankle injury, but I'm not 100% sure. But before that game against New England, before that ankle injury was bothering him, and this is the reason I have him too, he was dynamite through those first. I mean, we talk about Russell Wilson now. He was dynamite and then fell off a cliff. Kyler Murray didn't really fall off a cliff, but he was also dynamite in those first 10 weeks. He was actually better than Russell Wilson. Through weeks 1 through 10, he was the QB1 in one less game than Josh Allen. He was averaging 30 points per game through those first 10 weeks. So he was ridiculous. And then he started battling injuries, and he wasn't really the same player. They added Rondell Moore. They added AJ Green. It feels like, as you said, he's just getting better as a passer. I really like Kyler Murray. I've seen a few things on Twitter where people are like anti-Kyler Murray for some reason. And I think it's just because people are like, when a player gets so hyped, there just has to be backlash against them for no reason. I think Kyler gets a little bit of that, but for me, he's the clear number 2. I mean, not clear number 2. I was just saying how I go back and forth with him and Josh Allen, but I do feel like Kyler has like a good stride ahead of Josh Allen. Like I would clearly take Kyler too.
I think we got video
Allen
back for me.
Oh, there you go. Josh Allen is probably right behind him, but yeah, Kyler's number 2, man. What he did last year, those first 10 weeks, if he can do that again, he's going to finish as QB1 and probably win the MVP. He was the league MVP through 10 weeks last year.
Yeah, fair enough. I like I said, I think like these. I think after Mahomes, I almost want to say like tier 1, and then line.
Yeah,
at this point, because I like Kyler Murray, I like Josh Allen, and then the next guy we're going to talk about, I believe it's the next guy we're going to talk about. I hope, probably not. But I like as all, and maybe even the 5th guy, I like all in the same tier. And so either all of those guys can play kind of the same, whereas I think Mahomes hasn't been QB1 in fantasy football for the last 2 years. So like, if I had to, like I said before, I'm not necessarily projecting him to be number 1 overall, but do I think there's a fantastic shot that he does finish number 1? Yes.
For Kyler?
No, for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Kyler, I think, has a great shot of doing that too, and that's why he's number 2 overall. Because if he produces the same numbers on the ground, and he also adds to the production through the air,
it'll be ridiculous.
He's going to be ridiculous. Like, I think he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson. So that automatically makes him like, if he doesn't have the same, like, Lamar's a better rusher than Kyler for sure, but I think that if he can produce kind of in the same vicinity fantasy point wise as Lamar Jackson and get the passing work, like it's too much to handle. So I think that makes him the number 2 quarterback. I love my rushing quarterbacks in fantasy football. You know me. We spent 22 minutes on the first, or 25 minutes here on the first 3 guys.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah, I know. Seriously, who would have guessed that? We might just be top 6 quarterbacks at this point, or maybe top 10. Either way. They're just quarterback rankings according to the video, so people aren't clicking to hear top 12. But so number 4 on the list is Lamar Jackson. According to the ECR, he is number 4. Our rankings have him at 5.
I also am at 5.
Yeah, so we both have him at 5. Agreeing again. My goodness.
I think we have the next guy 1 spot off.
Yeah. So Lamar is ridiculous, and I actually think that I was saying last year, I can't remember where he finished, but I was talking about, I think it was QB10 is what I said.
Did he really finish as QB10 last year?
Yeah, something like that. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, QB10. Yep.
So yeah, he finished last year as the QB10 overall in fantasy football, and that is such a, like, we projected him to regress, but I didn't think it was going to be that far down.
Yeah, same.
Like, I was like, I like where Lamar was getting drafted, I was like, don't draft Lamar Jackson. It's not worth it. Like, if he goes in the 6th, 7th round, then yeah, let's grab Lamar. You know, like,
to be fair, if he played 15 games, so if he played another game, he probably would have finished as like QB7.
Yeah, which is kind of where I think we had him last year in terms of rankings.
Yep.
And so for this year, I personally have him 5. I can't speak for Rick, but I personally have him 5 because I think, like, they added some weapons in the offensive passing game. They have a much better running back to start the year in J.K. Dobbins. They still got Mark Andrews. Their offensive line is really great. And I think that Lamar has shown statistical improvements year to year in his passing game. But last year, he had a statistical decline in the passing numbers overall, just because he couldn't stay ridiculously efficient. People love Lamar, and I love Lamar too, but he only had 2,700 passing yards and 26 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
He's great.
He threw for less than 3,000 yards.
He threw for less than 3,000 yards. He doesn't throw the football. Last year, he had 376 pass attempts. The year before, he had 400.
Do you think, though, that is going to go up because of the weapons they added, or do you think that's just
I think it's a stagnant number, to be honest with you. I think he's going to get 400 passing attempts. Like, let me. I have my projections up here. I'm going to go to Baltimore and see what I have them projected at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
440 passing attempts is what I got.
Yeah, 440.
Yep.
So yeah, that's an increase for him. That would be a career high.
Yeah.
So yeah,
by 40 passes.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
that's one extra game. That's per 16.
Right.
If he played an extra game like the last 2 seasons, he might have gotten to like 410. But yeah, no, for me, when I look at Lamar, I think that there is his passing production is capped, but what makes him a great quarterback and what puts him in the top 5 for me is that rushing. I think his rushing will always give him an advantage over guys like Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert and Brian Tannehill and Aaron Rodgers and some other guys. So that's why he's kind of at this point number 5 for me. And this is why I'm like really in on Jalen Hurts, because if a guy like Lamar Jackson can throw for 2,700 yards and 26 touchdowns and rush for 1,000 yards, why can't Jalen Hurts get away with it and be considered as just as elite?
Sure.
So, and we'll probably talk about him a little bit later, but so that's why Lamar's 5 for me.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk about that later, but we might. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, Lamar, he's an 5 for me too, and it's not necessarily like because I'm like down on Lamar. I'm actually higher on Lamar than I thought I would be, because of what they did in the offseason, and it feels like they're trying to surround him with talent at the very least. He's got real weapons now on the outside with Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins. Although you could kind of make that argument with Sammy Watkins, but they at least have attempted to surround him with talent, which means they're trying. So I'm not going to say they're going to throw the ball a ton this year, but I think we could see a career high in pass attempts, whether that's like 440, like you said, or even like 430, which will make a slight difference. It's just with Lamar though, it's going to be all about rushing, obviously, as it always is. And I think that it's pretty much what we've seen is what we're going to get with Lamar, which is good. It is very good.
Right. For fantasy.
For fantasy, right. Does that mean he's going to be QB1? I don't know. Probably not.
Like out of the top 5 for us. Yeah. I definitely.
The only way he's QB1 is if they really actually commit to throwing the ball more this year, and he continues to run. Which I'm not sure. Like I think if they commit to throwing the ball more, it might take away some of his rushing.
Right.
So we'll see how it plays out. But I do like Lamar still. I think he's probably got one of the highest floors of these guys
because of the rushing. Yeah.
Because of the rushing, yeah. So that's why I have him at QB5. He's a good pick, but don't go crazy with him.
Now, I believe, just pulling this up real fast, his ADP right now is pick 46. So, that's really high for a guy that just rushes. He's like QB. He's legitimately QB4, which is what we said for the ECR, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and his schedule is not really that outstanding either. None of these top 8-9 guys are. So
no. I mean, they play on good teams, so.
Because Mahomes always gets the easy schedule.
The division he's in, man. That's what's all about.
So let's talk about the 5th guy, Dak Prescott. He has ECR is 5. I have him 3. You have him 4, correct?
Yes, I have him 4. Yep.
Okay, so quickly on Dak. I've talked about him before. I was looking at Dak's numbers over the last couple weeks, and what he was when he was playing was elite. Now, there is some concerns for a lot of people, including myself, which is why it hurts me a little bit to put him 3, about the ankle injury being something that is like when a player gets an ACL injury, right? They have to mentally recover from that ACL injury. And it's not just like a physical recovery, and then once they're ready to go, they can get out there and play. There's a mental aspect to it. And so Dak, who is a great rusher as well, doesn't rush because he likes throwing the football more. And it almost drives me crazy because there are plays where he throws errant passes because he doesn't want to rush it when he could probably just rush for the first down. Like, just rush, bro.
Right.
So now he's not even going to rush anymore, most likely because his foot bent backwards last time he ran. So I think for me, there's a concern there with the injury situation. But when you look at the time that he had early in the season last year, through the first, what was it? I'll go with the first 4 weeks of the season. And we just break it out through the first 4 weeks of the season. He was the QB1 with 125 fantasy points, right next to Russell Wilson, who crapped pants the rest of the season. Don't know why. But like, he was right up there with Josh Allen, with Kyler Murray, and he was clearly the QB1 last year. And I think like one of the things I had said last year in the offseason is that if Dak plays a full season, like, he could be QB1. And I think with this offense, nothing changing, and everyone coming back, there's no reason for me to believe that outside of that injury, which is why he's not, like, he would probably be up there at like 2 if he didn't have that injury last year, 1 or 2 overall this year. And I think because of that injury, it pushes him down to in 4 in your rankings and 3 in my rankings. So I think there is some concern there with Dak, but I think if he comes back, he's healthy, and there's no mental issues, he's going to play ridiculous. Like, he's going to play like Dak plays. And I think that with all the weapons he has around him, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to be that. And the other thing that makes it a little bit more spicy is that Dak Prescott's easier to purchase in the 6th round than Lamar Jackson's fourth round value. So
that definitely makes it spicy, man, because Dak was dynamite last year. In those first 4 games, he was the QB1. And then he was doing good too in the game where he did he break his foot? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the game that he broke his foot.
If any of our listeners are basketball fans, it was like the Gordon Hayward injury.
Right. Before that happened, though, he was having a good game in that one too. And the thing that with Dak last year wasn't even he like Russell Wilson through those first 4 games was pretty much on par. With Dak, but Russell Wilson was throwing a lot of touchdowns. Dak had 9 touchdowns in those 5 games, which like isn't even anything crazy. He was throwing a lot of yards.
It's like 2.5 touchdowns a game or something like that, which is very good. Don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But
right, and he was running the ball a lot too, which that is. I'm not sure if he can continue as much with that coming off the injury, and that is a concern, I think, to just when it comes to his total fantasy output, because those extra rushing yards and that extra rushing touchdown will matter. But when it comes to throwing the ball and the weapons he has, I mean, he showed it it was a small sample size, but he showed last year, like, he's going to put up huge statistics. And that is all fantasy is. It is statistics. He's going to throw for a lot of yards. He's probably going to throw for more touchdowns than he was last year. I think he's going to lead the NFL in yards. I think he did the year before that. He threw for almost 5,000 yards, and they were on pace for throwing the ball more. It's a Mike McCarthy offense. Like, they love throwing the ball. This is the perfect guy to get in the 6th round, because he has the same fantasy outlook as a guy like Lamar, as you said, who's going in the 4th round. I think it's honestly, you have him ahead of Josh Allen, and I think it's similar to Josh Allen, similar to Kyler Murray. And he's going like 3 rounds after those guys. So Dak is a good
5th, early 6th, I think is where it is. So
Dak is a very good player to go target.
And it's like, the other thing too is that you can get out of those early rounds if you want to draft a quarterback early. Like I said before, like you don't have to jump up unless you're in a 5-point, 6-point touchdown league or a super flex league. There's no reason to 1 quarterback, 4-point touchdown. There's no reason to be jumping the gun on quarterbacks in the top 5, 6, 7 rounds. So like, you'll just cripple yourself roster wise in other positions, in other areas, if you start drafting quarterbacks, especially when you talk about like the top 10 last year, the point differential being like 2 or 3 points between the QB1 and the QB10. Like, there's no reason for you to start leaping over guys to start drafting people. But if you want to draft a quarterback early, Dak Prescott's good with the 6th round, 5th, 6th round pick. And people might take him earlier because,
Cowboys fans?
Things get a little crazy when people start drafting in August.
That is true.
Reports start coming out. Dak is also, by the way, Hard Knocks has announced one of their teams, and it's the Dallas Cowboys. So if you wanted CeeDee Lamb in the 4th round, good luck.
Yeah.
You're going to watch Hard Knocks, and CeeDee Lamb's going to be a 2nd-round pick. And we're all going to be sitting here
every Cowboy player is going to be a top 3-round pick.
Yeah. So I don't know if that'll improve or decrease Dak's value at all. We'll see if that has an effect, but August changes everything. So, and we're just a short time away from that. So exciting stuff. But anyway, let's talk about the next guy on the list and try to quickly blow through these final 3. These are the guys that we probably should spend more time on. So next time we do rankings, let's just skip the first 6. But anyway, number 6 is Russell Wilson on the ECR. Now, I have Russ at 7. You have Russ at 6. I love Russell Wilson. I don't really have much to say about Russ. I think he's fantastic. I think if you want to draft him, especially at his ADP right now, which is in the 6th or 7th round, it's not a bad selection. There's problems for me with Russ in terms of, and he has expressed those issues with the team as well, that they don't throw the football enough. And Russell Wilson, he was extremely efficient passing the football early in the season last year. He was like QB1, 2, or 3 for the first half. And then the second half of the season, that efficiency just dropped dead. It wasn't there anymore. The passing touchdowns weren't there. And because he doesn't throw the football enough, and not his own doing, but his team's doing, because he doesn't pass the ball enough, he doesn't have enough work there to produce like a Dak Prescott, a Lamar Jackson, a Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes. So I think for me, I have him 7, and there's a good reason for you to have him 6, Rick. But I have him in that range because I just do not believe that he's going to jump into the top 4, top 3 with a full season under his belt. I just don't think it's going to be possible for him to do that. Now, is it possible that Seattle goes out this year and blows everything up and they start passing the football more than they rush the football, which is something they haven't done in the past? Yeah, that's a very large possibility. And if that does happen, then you get a really great quarterback, which is why I think the 6th, 7th round value for Russ is not a bad value if you want to draft a quarterback a little bit earlier. But I just don't expect Russell Wilson, when you draft him, to be the QB1, 2, or 3 in fantasy football. Like, expect him to get 20 points per game and be around QB 6 or 7.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about Russ too. And I have him 6. He finished at 6 last year. Mm-hmm. I really don't see any difference from this year to last year, which is unfortunate. And, he had a career high in passing attempts actually last year. And it felt like through those first few weeks, it was like they turned the corner, and then all of a sudden he was inefficient. Like, he also didn't play as well, but they also threw the ball less in the second half of the season. They kind of reverted back to what they were. It was like, what's going on? And even though he had a career high in passing attempts, let's see, he finished 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep. So the team finished 17th in passing attempts in the NFL. And that was a career high for Russ. That was a career high for Russ Wilson. If they ever get in the top 12 or top 10,
arguably,
he'll be QB1.
Arguably your best asset is Russell Wilson. Not arguably, he is your best asset. Yeah, and Russell Wilson is, like, if you were just to take fantasy football out of it and rank NFL quarterbacks right now, it's Patrick Mahomes and it's Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he's up there. He's definitely.
Like, I would say he's number 2, but they don't use him like he's number 2. They would prefer to use Chris Carson because he's clearly their best asset.
Right. Of course, yeah.
But anyway, so Russ in the first 8 weeks of the season, he was QB1. Mm-hmm. And then from week 9 to 17, the second half of the season, he was QB 11. So that was the differential there, all of the through the course of last season. Like, Russ was like, oh, he's going to be MVP through the first 8 weeks, and then after that, it was just like he disappeared, and then Rodgers took over as the as the peripheral MVP. So, yeah, I think for me, and then Russell Wilson also has a little bit, he has, according to Fantasy Pros, the worst schedule of any quarterback in the league next year.
Oh, that's great. That's great to know.
So, that's also not good news for Russell Wilson. Now, I'm rooting for the guy. Obviously, I want him to be good, but that's why he's QB 6 or 7 for me. Or what did I say, QB 7? Yeah, that's why he's QB 7, and I understand if you put him 6, but I personally this year don't think he's going to finish in the top 7. I'm sorry, top 5.
Yeah, I understand it completely with Russ. Like I really do. I like the player too, but it's just the team he's on, man. It's a wild card. I I still think he's efficient enough to be deserving of the sixth spot for me, but I can easily see why you have him 7.
Okay. Number 7 in the ECR is Justin Herbert. You have him. I have him 6. You have him 7, correct?
Yep.
So, yeah, I am kind of nervous about Herbert because it's a new offense. And sometimes rookie quarterbacks come out and they're fantastic. And then something happens. I don't know what it is. NFL teams figure them out. I have no idea. But they just start crapping their pants. And I don't know if that's going to happen to him. I would hope not. A quarterback in his rookie season walks into the NFL, doesn't start all 16, and gets 4,300 passing yards and 31 touchdowns, and only throws 10 interceptions, and has a completion percentage of 67%. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
That's pretty good. As a rookie quarterback in the NFL, that's pretty good. Here's the thing for me. I think he can get better. And like that offense hasn't really, they've obviously gone through some big changes, but personnel wise, they haven't changed at all. Besides Hunter Henry.
That's a blow, but
yeah, it's a blow, but it's not like he wasn't on the field. Well, he was on the field all 16 last year, correct? You keep telling me that, but I don't believe it.
I don't know if it was all 16. It might have been 15, but he played the whole year.
Yeah. But either way, so he did pass he had tremendous efficiency last year. He was really good last year, obviously. So the question is, can he continue that? And does the new head coach change some of those variables or metrics and offensive coordinator and all of that stuff? Like all this new stuff coming in, is this going to affect Justin Herbert's production? And I think there is some trepidation there and some fear for me that the new coach and the new offensive coordinator are going to kind of wreck him because that happens. I mean, Sam Darnold was okay for some time, and then 5 coaches later, kind of kills a player.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's going to affect him at all. Having a brand new coach, having a new offensive coordinator. Brandon Staley is the head coach, correct? Mm-hmm. And Joe Lombardi is the offensive coordinator, I believe.
Yes.
Let me just confirm that. Yes. So, and he comes from New Orleans. So, I mean, if anything, that's good news for Justin Herbert.
It's great news for Austin Eckler.
Yeah, it's great news for Austin Eckler. But so I just don't see any major changes for Justin Herbert this year in terms of how he's going to produce. I actually think this is why I have him 6. I think he's going to end up in the exact same spot. I don't think there's going to be an increase. I don't think there's going to be a decrease. I think he's just going to end up in the exact same area that he landed last year. If he had his old head coach in the same system, then maybe you could justify saying like, oh my God, this guy's going to end up being like a top 5 quarterback or a top 3 quarterback. But I can't do that right now, knowing that the offensive system has shifted and changed. Yeah,
he has that potential though. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but he's going to be like a top 3 fantasy quarterback. He has that ability. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was great. His rookie season, efficient, threw 31 touchdowns in 15 games. He ran the ball too last year. That was something that I don't think a lot of people in college they knew, but they weren't sure if it was going to translate at the NFL level. But it did. He had 5 rushing touchdowns. I think all those things are very capable of repeating. There are a few questions though with Herbert, and you touched on most of them. The coaching staff, losing Hunter Henry. I mean, they still has Keenan Allen. He still has Mike Williams, but the weapons aren't quite as good as it was last year. So there are valid questions with Herbert, but dude's a stud. And I think he'll figure it out. And he finished as a rookie, the QB9 and playing 15 games. So I think he's only going to go up from here. I have him at QB7, but you have him at QB6, and I think it's very possible that he finishes in that 7, 6, even 5 range.
Okay, fair enough. Next guy, Aaron Rodgers, ECR 8. I have Aaron Rodgers currently on my list as the number 10 quarterback, and you have him as number 8. Yeah. So you agreed with the ECR, and I moved him to 10.
Yeah.
So,
why do you have
I think
Rodgers?
for me, Rodgers over the last couple seasons has seen a statistical decline. And 2 years ago, and like I think it was the 2018 season, we started to see Rodgers go down a little bit. And then the 2019 season came around. He was like, I think he was like between QB 10 and 12 in the 2018 season and the 2019 season. And then in 2020, obviously he had an MVP caliber year. He was fantastic. He was really good. But I think that he is a year older, and I don't think he can continue that production. Yes, the offensive system that he has, it works for him. But I don't know if he can continue that production going into next year as a 37-year-old quarterback. And I don't really necessarily care about passion for the game, but that does matter. And the fact that he is willing to just drop everything if they don't trade him somewhere else,
Right.
is like literally retire from the NFL if they don't trade him. It shows me that he doesn't care about Green Bay, and he doesn't really care about playing football anymore. So like, and maybe it's him like, no, I want to get out of here and I want to go actually play. But there's so many questions surrounding Aaron Rodgers that there's no reason for me to, if we have a draft in August and we still don't have answers with Aaron Rodgers, to have him number 8. Like I want to move him down further because I'm not touching Aaron Rodgers with a 10-foot pole. Like I'm not going to draft him.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I got burned from Rodgers last year, though, and sort of a mistake I don't really want to make again, where it's just like the talent of the player and how good he was last year. The year before that, I think he finished as like QB 12, QB 13. It wasn't good. And it felt like they were committing more to the run. They had just drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. They didn't draft a receiver. They drafted Jordan Love in the first round. It felt like they were going in this new direction. And then all of a sudden, Aaron Rodgers puts up almost 400 fantasy points and finishes QB 3.
A-Rod.
I mean, he had a ridiculous monster season last year. And I don't know where Rodgers is playing next year, if he plays at all. I think he will play. But I'm not really sure where it's going to be. And I don't think it's going to be in Green Bay, to be honest with you. But if it was, dude, he had 48 touchdown passes last year. That is so stupid. That is so dumb. And if he goes to Denver, where a team you could make the argument has more weapons than Green Bay, I mean, like he's going to be a monster there too. Now, if he goes to Raiders, that's I don't like that as much. Yeah, but he's still capable of doing really good things.
I think that I think the Green Bay is like standing pat, and they're not going to trade him. They're going to call his bluff, and he's either going to play for Green Bay or he's going to call their bluff and he's going to retire. So I don't really think that.
Well, if he retires, and that ends the conversation.
We'll see, and that's the thing with me is that say we get to midway through August and we still don't have the question, we answers to any of these questions, and you're having drafts, and Aaron Rodgers is still ranked 8 on Fantasy Pros, and he's still ranked 8 on a lot of people's rankings, and you're running out and you're drafting Aaron Rodgers in the 8th round or 7th round because you really like him, and then he just retires in the middle of your draft like Andrew Luck did.
Yeah, I wouldn't draft Rodgers if I know he's going to play, but if he does end up reporting back to Green Bay or gets traded to Denver, I think getting him as a QB8 is really good value.
Yeah, I guess. He did really well last year. I just don't know if it's going to continue. There's 2 different Aaron Rodgers that we saw in this system. The question is, which one are you going to get? So the next guy, we're going to talk about the next couple guys really quickly because we have to end this program. And these are going to be our longest shows of 2021, so just so you know. The rest of them, we talk about 5 players each. So we're not complete idiots.
Pretty much.
But anyway, so the next guy is number 9, Jalen Hurts, according to the ECR. And according to you, Jalen Hurts is 10. According to me, Jalen Hurts is 8. So I basically just swapped Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Hurts. Now, I do this because I know last year you said you got burned by Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how. How did you get burned on Aaron Rodgers? Because he did
I had him ranked really. I mean, he finished as QB 12, and then they added a running back and felt like they were running the ball more, and they added a quarterback. It just felt like they were going in a new direction.
So you backed away from him.
I ranked Rodgers a little lower, and then he ended up finishing as QB 3.
Yeah. I would say that would be screwing it up a little bit. I mean, he had 48 touchdowns, he still finished as a QB3, so let's think about that too.
That's true.
Like he provides no rushing floor.
Very little.
That's why I'm like, he's going to end like 10 even if he plays. But either way, I have Jalen Hurts higher. He's the new AG quarterback. He's the rushing quarterback. He's the Lamar Jackson. And some people hate Lamar. I mean, some people hate Jalen Hurts. They think he sucks. They think he can't pass the football, and that when you watch him on tape, he blows. Now, that may be true. That may be fair. But the Eagles don't have a single option at quarterback besides Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Now, would they be unwilling to bench him if he sucks? Yeah, no. They would probably bench him. But I think that they're going to try to ride him at least for one season. And if he doesn't work, they'll go in another direction. They only spent a second-round pick on him, so like they'll go in a different direction if that's the case. But this is redraft we're talking about. And Jalen Hurts knows how to rush the football. So if you're picking him up, the risk that you're running with Jalen Hurts is that either A, he's trash, and he rushes the football well and ends up like QB 12. Or he does good, he passes well, he rushes well, and he ends up like a top 5-6 quarterback. There's two options there. No, I have him 8. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to finish top 3. But I'm saying there's potential for Jalen Hurts to break out this year. And I would rather take him than old guys like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, or even Kirk Cousins. So
that is fair, man.
I do really like Jalen Hurts. Now, I did want to look at something specifically related to Jalen Hurts, but I can't remember. Oh, he also, of the ECR top 12 quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts also has the easiest schedule besides Patrick Mahomes. So
that is,
that's intriguing. But the fact that I know you said that they were interested in trading up to go get Zach Wilson or whatever with the number 3.
Yeah, they were really
essentially doing
Wilson.
What the 49ers did, but they didn't. And they traded away Carson Wentz. So the fact that they didn't trade for a quarterback in the NFL draft and they traded away Carson Wentz means that I think they're buying in on Jalen Hurts, at least for one season, and saying, this is your team, this is what you're going to do. Do your thing. If you suck, you're out, essentially.
Yeah.
And so they added weapons to that offense. They still have good running game. Their offensive line's okay. And I think that Jalen Hurts is probably going to take advantage of that, and he loves to rush the football. So, I mean, there's a floor for him. And if he passes well, he should be fine. And I just don't understand why people are like, oh my God, Jalen Hurts blows. I know he's a second-round quarterback. I get it. Yeah, so is Jimmy G. But you all got on that train for a little while, too. So,
dude, stop disrespecting Jimmy G.
I love Jimmy G. Jimmy G MVP. But like,
yeah, I feel like I fall in the middle with Jalen Hurts because like I get the argument that hates him, but I also understand the argument of people who love him. Because we saw like with Drew Lock last year, how he kind of like burst on the scene, and then people were like, "Oh, he's just an elite quarterback," and I really liked what I saw too. And then all of a sudden, he stunk the entire year. And there were flaws in his game in those first few weeks, but he just had a few nice passes, and it like looked like he could do something with Hurts. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had great rushing games, great fantasy games, and even a really good passing game. But there was a lot of flaws in his game too. I mean, he didn't have a game where he had over 60% completion percentage. I think he had 52% completion percentage in the year, which is like atrocious. So like passing the ball, I really don't know, but he does have the floor, the rushing floor, which he was fantastic in last year. So I feel like Hurts can go either way. Like there's a chance, like if he is just a decent enough passer and Philly feels like that he's just decent enough, he can very easily finish as a top 5 quarterback just because of his rushing. He was the QB3 last year in the games that he started. But then there's also the other side of it where he ends up being just as bad of a passer, and by week 5 they bench him. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and they give up on him. Yeah.
So the two things for me that I kind of noticed, not to interrupt. I don't know if you have anything else to say. So in the 3 games, forgetting about week 17 where they kind of played him and then took him out.
Which he did stink though.
He stunk in that game, but I'm going to take that game out because they took him out halfway through the game, and
sure,
I'll just take that one out. He was paced out to 603 pass attempts, which is good. He only, like you said, the 54 completion percentage or 52 per completion percentage paced out over this course of games is 54%. Is not good. Like, he's got to get up to 60% in order for that to be relevant enough. But just to give you the information, he had 603 attempts, 331 completions, according to the paced out numbers per 16. 4,500 yards, 27 passing touchdowns, and 11 interceptions.
That's good.
So that's pretty good in terms of passing numbers. The icing on the cake for this is the 203 rushing attempts and 1,269 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. He also added to that.
That is
so. Ridiculous. If this is anything that it looks like anything Jalen Hurts can do over the course of next season, where he throws it 580 to 600 times, and he gets 4,500 yards passing and 27 touchdowns or 28 touchdowns and only throws 10 to 12 interceptions and gets 203 rushing yards, over 1,000 yards rushing and 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns, he's going to be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy football. And when you're talking about a guy that's getting drafted right now in the 9th round or 8th round in some formats, to me, it's a good buy.
Yeah.
So and that's why I'm like, I'd rather have the pick 87 Jalen Hurts over the pick 79 Aaron Rodgers, because there's a lot less uncertainty to me surrounding Jalen Hurts, even though there is some uncertainty there. Any quarterback that's drafted later is going to have that.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with Jalen Hurts. Let's move on. We're going to rapid fire the last 3 guys.
Okay.
Realistically, rapid fire.
Okay.
Do you have any more thoughts on Jalen Hurts?
No.
All right, Tom Brady is the ECR 10. I have him 13. You have him 13 as well. Tom Brady's an old man. He threw 42 touchdowns last year. Is that what you said?
I think it was 40.
40 touchdowns. So he played really well last year. Tom Brady did great. The weapons helped. All that stuff really helped. He just won a Super Bowl. He proved... Tom Brady has always had a chip on his shoulder, and he kind of proved everything that he needed to prove in his career. He seems very relaxed lately. He kind of... I know Brady always wants to win another Super Bowl, but I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just something... This is the twilight. This is it.
I think
this is it for Tom Brady. This might be the final year of Tom Brady's NFL career.
I think it is. And I was on the Brady train last year. I drafted him in our home league. And this year I'm off because it feels like this is it for him. Yeah. He's focusing more a lot on the off-field stuff. He's even said he even admitted he doesn't really know how much he has left. It just feels like this feels like the last year.
And it's not like he could still have a wonderful, fantastic season. With
I have him ranked ahead of Matt Ryan and a few other guys still.
But I think for me the reason why I have him 13 is because I don't think he's throwing 40 touchdowns again.
No,
and I think that he'll probably be around his average 30 to 32 touchdowns, and that's. You know what I mean? Yeah. If he does that and then he throws for 4,500 passing yards, that's great. That's a fantastic number. That's a good finish to an NFL career, if there is one.
Yeah.
But the problem that I see with that is that Tom Brady provides no rushing floor. So if he's only throwing 4,500 passing yards and 32 touchdowns, that's going to put him 12 or 13. Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's kind of where we both have.
Yeah. So. Don't draft Tom Brady top 10. I have him that low too because right now he's going pick 92. He's going as the 9th or 10th quarterback off the board in redraft. So I'm don't draft Tom Brady that high.
Yeah.
If he goes 12th, 13th round, then maybe you can snag him and get away with it. You get an old man quarterback and then a young quarterback later in the draft, like Daniel Jones, and
get that veteran young guy combo that I love.
But we do have Tom Brady 13, so I don't agree with the ECR here. Number 11, Ryan Tannehill. His ECR is 11, according to Fantasy Pros. I have him 9. You have him?
Also 9.
9. All right, so Ryan Tannehill adds A.J. Brown. I saw a statistical chart over the course of the first 3 seasons,
the stats are ridiculous.
It's crazy. But over the last 2 seasons for Patrick Mahomes, if you take the numbers for Patrick Mahomes over the last 2 seasons, and then you take the numbers for Ryan Tannehill since he started for Tennessee when they first traded for him, or when they first started him, is that right? Yeah, when they didn't trade for him, they started him. When they first started him to the end, you put those numbers side by side, they are the same. And you're going to be like, no, they're not. I saw this on ESPN, so it's legit. But Ryan Tannehill, I'm not saying that he's Patrick Mahomes, okay? I'm just telling you They added A.J. Brown. Their offense is really good. Ryan Tannehill, he doesn't throw the football a lot. That's why he's always like between 6 or 7 finishing at the quarterback position, right? And Patrick Mahomes throws it like 550 times, 600 times a season, so it's a little bit different. But Ryan Tannehill provides some rushing floor. He provides great passing ability, and he has a really good offense. And all of those things put together mean for me that he should be the QB9, and I actually might even move him higher than that because I like Ryan Tannehill that much.
To mention the fact that they also added Julio Jones.
And his ADP is 106. So,
yeah, all great things for Tannehill.
Did I say they added A.J. Brown? I meant to say they added Julio Jones.
Yeah, they added Julio Jones. And they have Julio and A.J. Brown, which is ridiculous. He was the QB7 last year.
Yeah.
I think the year before that, when he took over for the starting job, wasn't he the QB3 or the QB4?
Yeah.
He was one of those. So we have 2 full seasons at sample size, and he was a top 7 quarterback in both years. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 2 or 3 guy, but he's going to be a top 10 quarterback again next year if he's healthy. And you can get him at that ADP. That's a steal. So I like Ryan Tannehill a lot too. I have him number 9.
Okay, let's end this lengthy program with Matt Stafford, who the ECR is 12 on him, and then we have him. You have him 12. I have him 11. Quick reasons why Matt Stafford is a really, really solid buy in fantasy football this year. These are guys that the guys that we're talking about right now are guys that we're ranking a little bit lower, but I personally believe in like guys like Jalen Hurts, guys like Matt Stafford, guys like Ryan Tannehill. You can get them later in drafts, and I think they're really like those are guys that are going to be QB 6 or 7, and they're going to produce like 1 point less than the top 2 or 3 guys. So like I think they're great buys, and I think they're going to be guys that produce a little bit higher than what people think. So right now the ADP for Matt Stafford is currently 99. So he's getting drafted in the 9th round, late 9th round, which is fantastic value. Mid to late 9th round, which is fantastic value for Matt Stafford. He goes to Los Angeles. We know what they do passing the football, and he's a better quarterback than Jared Goff. So simple as that. He has the system that he's always wanted to, like essentially the talent around him that he's always wanted, and a good offensive system. I think the sky's the limit for Matt Stafford, and I think if you draft him, like he's one of the biggest steals later in the draft. Like he could end up a top 6 quarterback overall.
Yeah, I could see that. Every year there's always a random veteran like that finishes like in the top 10, like Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, like just someone like that, and then they end up consistently being there. I think Stafford could be that guy this year. I only have him 12 because I think the guy is ahead of him. I just like slightly more, but Stafford has a very high floor, and he also has a relatively high ceiling considering the new offense. We saw what Jared Goff was able to do in that offense, and we both think Stafford is a better quarterback. Stafford last year was a QB 15, but he pretty much played the whole year without Kenny Golladay. It was really just TJ Hawkinson as his like top target. The year before that, he finished. He got hurt, but in points per game, he was the QB 4 in 2019. So we know Stafford is capable of being a very good quarterback, and he's in a better offense. So he's got a very high floor and a sneaky high ceiling as well. I think QB 12 is good, but for me, like he could finish as like QB 11 or 10, but only 5 points. Like you said, like he's like 10 points off from QB 5. Like he's right there.
Yeah, totally agree. So the guy that is in our top 12, because we agreed on basically all of our top 12, and Joe Burrow is 12 for me. He is 11 for you.
11. Yep.
And he has made it into our top 12. So if we had a consensus, it would be Mahomes, Kyler, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Ryan Tannehill, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, and Joe Burrow. That is our top 12 in no particular order.
Yeah.
So, it's because Tom Brady did not make that list. So, and we love Joe Burrow, but we're not going to mention anything else on him. So there's your top 12. There's your top 12 quarterbacks for us in fantasy football. Moving into the 2020 fantasy football season. Thursday, we got some interesting content. We got finally moving away from these 12 ranking hour shows. Like I can't stand hour shows. We're going to talk about the top 5 bounce back players for the 2021 fantasy football season. So be sure to check that out on Thursday.
See you guys later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.